Hello, my name is Shivani and this is the Curly Bookworm. Welcome. We are now doing one of the most popular booktube videos that you will see at the moment, which is basically the year's best books. I'm going to be telling you about all of my favorites this year. Let's go. Before we begin, I just want to say if you could please like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and all of that good stuff that helps the algorithm recognize that this is a nice video. If you think it's a nice video, obviously, then please do it. Let's begin now. One of the books that I want to talk to you about today is not a novel, it's not nonfiction, it is not even a graphic novel, it's just a book with wonderful quotes from book writers, but also about cats. So it's got illustrations of cats, yummy, and it's got quotes from amazing writers, even more yummy. I've talked about this book before. I've talked about how beautiful the illustrations are. I've talked about just how cute the experience of reading through this book is. So if you love cats or if you know anybody that loves cats, I suggest that you get them this book or get yourself this book. It's so good. So let's start the official list now. That was just like a not fiction, not non-fiction book, but the official list starts now. The first book that I want to talk to you about is called Regrettably, I'm About to Cause Trouble by a woman called Amy McNee. You may know Amy because she is like very popular on Instagram. She has a handle called Inspire to Write. But I couldn't have imagined how fun and how good of a writer she is. I just picked it up because she talked about it a little bit here and there, and I was like, okay, cool, let me pick this up. And I was just like, oh my god, such a cozy, fun book. This is about a woman called Maud. The time is some 1500 something, and the place is England. And Maud is about to get married to like a nobleman, and she's petrified because she has this big she has a big like birthmark that is going from her belly button all the way to her thighs and so on and so forth, and it's quite ugly. And at that point, apparently those kinds of birthmarks or marks in general were considered to be marks of being a witch. And so she obviously does not want to be considered a witch because she doesn't think she's a witch, and she isn't a witch, and she just wants to be like every other woman of that era. She wants to get married, she wants to have lots of sons and all of that, but that is not what is written in her fate at all, because she does get married, but on the night of her wedding, her husband gets really freaked out, outs her as a witch, and she has to now leave home because she doesn't know how to deal with the situation. And she ends up actually banding up with the town's witches, and a whole adventure unfolds. And it's so much fun. It is about witches, it's about this cozy setting, it's about empowering and empowered women, and I love it. Honestly, fully recommend it. The next book that I want to talk to you about is called Foster. This is actually a novella. It's very short, I think it's less than 100 pages. It is by a woman called Claire Keegan. She apparently only writes novellas. I'm not even sure, because in the bookstore the other day I saw a bunch of her work and they were all really tiny, so I think maybe she writes only novellas. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, this one, Foster, is beautiful. It is about this girl, this very young girl who is being dropped off at a distant relative's house by her father. That's how the book opens. I can't get into much more because it's a very short book, and if I did get into much more, I'd be basically telling you the whole story. But the whole story is about what it feels like to not feel very wanted or loved by your own family, what it feels like to find family, what the importance of even wanting to be loved and wanting to be cared for in somebody's life, all of that, all of those themes. It's really beautiful. Such amazing, powerful, beautiful prose. Fully recommend. The next book that I want to talk to you about is called Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I have talked about this book too before, and I've raved about it. It is amazing because it has one of my favorite characters in the whole world, New York. New York is one of my favorite cities, and any book that is based in New York has a bonus, has a one-up already for me. So yeah, that said, this book is about two people who fall in love and how they're not ready to be in love, how they're not ready to actually truly be in a marriage, and what happens with that kind of a situation, what happens with that kind of a love story. I just absolutely enjoyed this story because it's such a unique love story. It's about two people, Cleo and Frank. They're entirely mismatched, and you're totally rooting for them. And things just keep going wrong in their romance. Things just keep going out of whack. And there are also a lot of supporting characters. There's Frank's sister, there's Cleo's best friend, and they're all very strange, well written characters, but they're flawed. All of them are flawed. And they're very real. And I love them. I just really love how real this book is in its portrayal of the difficulties in a relationship, especially a relationship that is rushed into, because Cleo isn't an American. She needs to go off to London, which is where she belongs. She's British. But she falls in love with Frank, and she's supposed to leave. Her visa runs out, and Frank's like, you know what, let's just get married. And they're like, she's like 22 years old and he's like 45 years old. It's just all unlikely, but you're rooting for them. And yeah, I've said too much already, but I just feel like it's such a real, authentic book about love in the modern ages and how we navigate these things. And yeah, I would definitely say read it because it has made it to the top of my list this year. So the next book that I want to talk to you about is a little novella by an author who is fast becoming a favorite. I've known of her for a while, but I didn't try her books, and once I did, they're so good. Especially her novellas became on, I think, the top 10 of my books last year as well. And here they are. Here's one more featuring on the top 10 this year. And this author's name is Becky Chambers. The book is called To Be Taught If Fortunate. When the novella begins, it's actually via a letter that these astronauts are writing back to Earth saying, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. Like, this is me telling you that this is what has happened since we left, etc., etc. And then they kind of get into talking about leaving the Earth and like going on these different missions to find different inhabitable parts of the universe, and all of their adventures everywhere, and how they're feeling in each of these places, and how they miss home, and all of these lovely things. I would urge you to pick up this one because it's really quick and it's really lovely to read. And if you like sci-fi specifically, I would definitely ask you to read this. It is not necessarily a very sci-fi in its nature. If you are not into sci-fi, you can totally be reading this. Some of the stories are so human and so beautiful, and I fully enjoyed it. I'm not going to tell you much more about this because, again, this is a novella. So yeah, go and read it. So good. So the next book that I want to talk to you about is called The Covenant of Water. This is one of the most recent books that I just finished reading. This is by an Indian American author who has never lived in Kerala, but who has gone into complete detail about Kerala, especially the 1900s. I don't even know how he did that. That's impossible. Like, it is absolutely impossible, the kind of detail that he's gone into. The reason why I'm saying this is because I am from that coast, and I know what houses are like, I know what people are like, I know what life is like there, and I know how accurate it is. Anyway, I get ahead of myself. Covenant of Water is one of those super popular books. It's a lit fic book. It is a generational story about a bunch of different people who live in a property called Perambil in Kerala. It starts in the early 1900s with this woman who later becomes a matriarch of that household, and it goes on to tell this intergenerational story of each generation as they come, how they live on this property called Perambil, where they go, the connections that they form. There's also like this weird connection that they have with water, and hence the name Covenant of Water. But none of this even matters, because the prose, guys, that is what this book is about. The prose is just insane. It is, some of the plot points have been told so beautifully. It's just it's like cake. It's so good. Apart from being entirely accurate in the feel of the place, it's also so much about like how certain parts of the story are sort of explored and revealed, and I just think was written so well. If you like Pachinko, if you've read Pachinko, it's very similar, except like it's set in India. Pachinko set in like Korea and Japan, and this is set in South India. That said, I must say that the last maybe 100 pages of this book did not make me that happy. It wasn't the story itself, but how the story ended. But like I said, this book wasn't so much about the story itself, because there were so many stories within the book. There were so many generations and their stories. It's so much more about the words and the prose, and I loved it so much. I would absolutely recommend it, despite the fact that I didn't love the ending. It didn't make a difference to me. Yeah, sure, I was frustrated, but even then, I would read it all over again, because I just loved the way this book was written. Okay, so listen, the number one book on my list this year, I cannot even believe it, because it's a fanfic book, you guys. It's not even an actually published book. It's a fan fiction book. I love it. I love it so much. If you've been watching this channel, you know which one I'm talking about. This is Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. Oh my god, what a fun experience this book was. It wasn't prosaic, it wasn't poetic, there was nothing amazing in terms of literary structure or like any of those things. It was 1,000 pages, and despite it all, it was so good, because the subject of the book is so good. May I tell you, it was quite slow, but I love that it was slow. For the first time in my life, I was like, yes, continue to be slow, because I just want to keep reading this book. So this was about 20 years later, after Harry Potter ends. The story sort of picks up again, where Draco is an Auror, so is Harry Potter, and so is like Ron. But Hermione is a healer. She is also a researcher, because Hermione is just like super talented, and she is researching something that's super important, and it could like change the whole world of magic and the wizarding world forever, but it puts her in a little bit of a risk. There are like bad people in the world who basically want to come and like destroy this research. They don't want this crazy thing that this revolutionary thing that she's working on to happen, and so she's in danger. And so Draco is sent by the ministry to take care of her, to just protect her. And obviously Hermione and Draco hate each other. There's a lot of like history, there's a lot of trauma there. So clearly she's not thrilled about him being assigned to her. He's not thrilled about this assignment at all, and both of them just want it to be over, except that they start falling in love. And like that connection of Draco, who we all have learned to just really dislike through the movies, through the books, all of that, and Hermione, Draco and Hermione, oh my god, it's just what on earth, what a crazy combination. Anyway, just saying, this is such an addictive book. I could not put it down, but at the same time I'm like, please don't end ever, because it was so much fun, and it was like a warm hug. It was so good. And I can't believe a fanfic book, I'm saying it again, I can't believe a fanfic book made it to the top of my list. Oh my god, so good. Fully recommend it to all Harry Potter fans. If you like Harry Potter and you want to sort of experience Draco or Hermione and their characters, man, just go read this. That's it from me. That is all I've got for you today. These were my favorite books of the year. I hope you read them, and if you do, please comment and let me know what you like about it. I will see you next time with another video, either about books or about art. See you soon. Bye.